My golden house was sold by my wife's parents. The house that shined like a promise. In 2026, the house stood like royalty above the city. It wasn't just big, it was intentional. Glass walls reflected the skyline. Gold-accented balconies curved like art. Inside, Italian marble floors caught the sunlight every morning, turning the entire living room warm and alive. From the rooftop infinity pool, the city looked small, obedient. Marcus Reed called it the Golden House. He didn't name it for the color. He named it for what it represented. Years of sacrifice. Sleepless nights. Deals that almost broke him. Walking away from people who doubted him. Building from nothing. This house's legacy, Marcus once told Ariana as they stood in the master bedroom, the curtains dancing in the breeze. Ariana smiled, resting her hand on his chest. "It's beautiful," she said softly. But she didn't say ours. Marcus didn't notice. Not then. They had been married for just 6 months when Ariana's parents came to visit for the first time. Leonard and Patricia Whitmore arrived in black luxury SUVs, stepping out like royalty inspecting territory. Patricia's eyes scanned the house slowly, calculating. Leonard nodded with thin approval. "It's impressive," Leonard said. But his tone carried something else. Ownership envy. Dinner that night was flawless. Private chef. Gold-rimmed plates. Soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. City lights glowing behind glass walls. Patricia sipped her wine. "You've done very well for yourself, Marcus." "Thank you, ma'am," Marcus replied respectfully. Leonard leaned back in his chair. "You know," he said casually, "properties like this are assets. And assets should always be optimized." Marcus smiled politely. "I didn't build this to flip it." Leonard's eyebrow twitched. "Everyone has a price." Ariana shifted uncomfortably. "Dad." Leonard raised his hand. "I'm just talking business." But Marcus felt it. That subtle energy. Not admiration. Assessment. Later that night, Ariana stood at the bathroom mirror, quiet. "You okay?" Marcus asked. She nodded. "They just worry." "About what?" She hesitated. "About security." Marcus kissed her forehead. "This house is security." Ariana didn't answer. And that silence would later scream. Marcus was in New York when it happened. A final meeting for a luxury development project. Phones buzzing. Contracts being signed. Then Jordan Blake called. "Marcus," Jordan said slowly, "where are you right now?" "In a meeting." "Why?" There was a pause. "And your house has been sold." Marcus laughed. "Not funny." "I'm not joking," Jordan said. "I just received a title transfer alert." The room went silent. "That's impossible," Marcus said. "I never authorized." Jordan cut in. "The sale was completed yesterday." "Yes." "Private buyer." Marcus's chest tightened. "Who signed?" Another pause. "And your in-laws." The world tilted. Marcus left the meeting without explanation. His hands shook as he opened the property records on his tablet. It was real. The Golden House. Sold. Authorization papers. Legal loopholes. Power of attorney documents he had never knowingly signed. Ariana's parents' names were everywhere. Marcus called Ariana. She didn't answer. He called again. Voicemail. When he finally reached the house, his house, the gate didn't recognize his code. Security stopped him. "Sir," the guard said awkwardly, "this property has new ownership." Marcus stood outside, staring at the glass walls that once reflected his dreams. And for the first time in his life, he felt homeless while standing in front of his own legacy. Marcus stood outside the gate long after the security guard retreated. The golden lights inside the house still glowed. The same warm hue that once welcomed him home after 14-hour workdays now felt like mockery. Through the glass walls, he could see movement, staff he had hired, furniture he had chosen, art he had personally imported. But none of it belonged to him anymore. He sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. This wasn't just theft. It was erasure. Jordan arrived 20 minutes later. "I told them not to touch anything," Jordan said as he stepped out of his car. "Legally, this sale is aggressive, but not sloppy." Marcus laughed bitterly. "That's worse." They sat inside the car. "How?" Marcus asked. "How did they sell a house in my name without my knowledge?" Jordan pulled out a folder. "Remember last year, when you were expanding overseas? You signed limited power of attorney documents. For travel. Emergencies only." "Yes," Jordan said. "But your father-in-law had those clauses widened." Quietly. "He used your marriage trust framework." Marcus closed his eyes. "Ariana?" he asked quietly. Jordan hesitated. "She didn't sign the sale papers. But she witnessed the authorization." Silence filled the car. "She watched them take my house," Marcus whispered. "Ariana called that night." Marcus didn't answer. "She texted, 'Please talk to me.'" When he finally picked up, he didn't speak. "I didn't know they were going to sell it," she said quickly. "I swear." "But you knew they were planning something," Marcus replied calmly. She swallowed. "They said it was temporary. That it was for restructuring. You watched them transfer my home." Her voice broke. "They said you'd understand later." Marcus leaned back in his hotel bed, staring at the ceiling. "Did you understand?" he asked. Silence. "That house," Marcus continued, "was my history, my proof. And you stood there." "I was raised to trust my parents," Ariana whispered. "And I was raised to protect what I build," Marcus replied. When she came to see him 2 days later, she stood in the hotel room, hands folded like a child caught in a lie. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Marcus nodded slowly. "But you did." Leonard Whitmore hosted a private dinner in his penthouse that weekend. Champagne flowed. City views sparkled. He spoke proudly. "Marcus is emotional," Leonard said to his guests. "But business is business." Patricia smiled politely. "He'll recover." "What matters," Leonard continued, "is that the property is now under proper management." Vanessa Cole, the real estate agent, nodded. "The buyer is very pleased." Leonard smirked. "Good. Because that house was wasted on sentiment." But he missed one thing. Marcus wasn't emotional. He was observing. Marcus moved into a minimalist luxury apartment downtown. No memories. No distractions. Just glass, steel, and silence. Jordan visited him with updates. The buyer plans to redevelop. Tear down the house. Marcus's jaw tightened. "That house isn't coming down." Jordan looked at him. "You have a plan." Marcus stood by the window. "They sold the house." He turned slowly. "They didn't sell the land." Jordan's eyes widened. Marcus owned the land beneath the Golden House through a separate holding company. He had done it years earlier to protect against exactly this kind of manipulation. Leonard never noticed. He was too busy winning. Jordan smiled. "This changes everything." Marcus nodded. "They own walls and glass." He paused. "I own the ground they stand on." The lawsuit hit like an earthquake. Quiet. Precise. Unavoidable. Stop work orders. Land usage violations. Ownership disputes. Construction froze. The buyer sued Leonard. Leonard blamed the agent. Patricia stopped smiling. Ariana watched everything collapse. She came to Marcus again. "I didn't know you had another company." "I didn't think I needed to explain survival," Marcus replied. "Can we fix this?" she asked. Marcus looked at her carefully. "That depends." "On what?" "Whether you're my wife or their daughter." 6 months later, Marcus walked back onto the land. The house still stood, untouched. The buyer had walked away. Leonard's reputation was damaged. Patricia avoided public events. Marcus bought the structure back, for a fraction of its value. He stood alone in the living room, sunlight pouring in like forgiveness. The Golden House was home again. But something had changed. Ariana arrived at the Golden House on a quiet Sunday morning. No parents. No assistants. No luxury car following her. She stood at the gate for a long time before pressing the bell. Marcus opened the door himself. For the first time since everything happened, she looked small. "I told them everything," she said immediately. Marcus stepped aside and let her in. The house felt different now, quieter, stripped of illusion. Some furniture was gone. Some art had been removed. It no longer screamed wealth. It whispered truth. "I told them I won't be part of anything that harms you again," Ariana continued. "They cut me off." Marcus studied her face. No makeup. No performance. "Why now?" he asked. She swallowed. "Because I finally realized something." She looked around the living room. "This house didn't break our marriage." She met his eyes. "My silence did." Leonard Whitmore wasn't used to losing. When the lawsuits drained his influence, his circle shrank quickly. Invitations stopped. Deals paused. People who once laughed loudly around him now answered emails with formality, or not at all. One afternoon, his assistant resigned without explanation. That evening, Leonard sat alone in his penthouse. Patricia spoke softly. "We pushed too far." Leonard slammed his glass down. He was supposed to be grateful. For what? Patricia asked. For being robbed? Leonard didn't answer. Because for the first time, he understood something terrifying. Marcus Reed hadn't fought him emotionally. He fought him correctly. Marcus and Ariana sat on the balcony that night. City lights stretched endlessly. "I love you," Ariana said quietly. Marcus nodded. "I believe you." Her breath caught. But love doesn't erase damage. She closed her eyes. "I know. I won't punish you," Marcus continued. "But I won't ignore what happened either." She reached for his hand. "I'll do whatever it takes." Marcus gently pulled his hand back. "Then start by standing on your own," he said. "Not behind me. Not behind them." She nodded, tears slipping silently. Marcus made his decision alone. Not in anger. Not in revenge. In clarity. He transferred the Golden House into a protected legacy trust, one that required absolute transparency and consent from all parties. Ariana wasn't removed. But she wasn't empowered either. Trust, he decided, must be earned forward, not restored backward. When he told Ariana, she didn't argue. "I understand," she said. And for the first time, Marcus knew she truly did. Months later, Marcus hosted a quiet gathering. No press. No status guests. Just people who had stood with him when he stood alone. Jordan raised a glass. To a man who learned the difference between love and access. Laughter followed. Ariana stood beside Marcus, not as an extension, but as herself. The Golden House glowed behind them, not as a trophy, but as a foundation. Marcus looked around and realized something important. The house had been taken, returned, reclaimed, but he had never been lost. Leonard never entered the Golden House again. Patricia sent a letter, apologetic but distant. Ariana rebuilt herself slowly, honestly. And Marcus? Marcus expanded his legacy, not with anger, but with boundaries. In 2026, the Golden House stood taller than ever. Not because it was made of glass and gold, but because it was built on something stronger. Truth. Peace didn't last quietly. The Golden House, once whispered about in elite circles, became spoken of again, but differently. Not as stolen property. Not as scandal. As power reclaimed. Marcus noticed it first through invitations. Private investor dinners. Luxury real estate summits. Quiet calls from people who once ignored him. Success had returned, but now it carried weight. The story isn't over yet. The real question remains. Were Ariana's parents arrested for what they did, or did they walk away free? Justice has a way of catching up, and the truth is about to surface. Watch out for the next episode on this channel, Mira Wealth Stories. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for watching.